What was it like to literally have the church be a part of rescuing you from drug addiction and to have the Book of Mormon be so incredibly meaningful to you, and even apologetics to have been an important part of your, journey? How was it to write parodies about these things that in some senses were really sacred to you at one point, and in other senses maybe even were parts of saving your life? Was that
Yeah,
it all conflicting for you emotionally, or was it just all fun and games, the process of songwriting parodies about things so sensitive to your core?
And I know it's sacred to a lot of people and people I care about who care about me. And I do feel very conflicted about that. But a couple things. First of all, like I said, it's what I do. It's kind of, music is it's my meditation. It's my source of inspiration and expression. And I really didn't talk much about the reasons why I left the church. When I did a year ago, I said, I'm not going to talk about it. But it was there, it was there. I think it had to come out in some ways, and it began more, like I said, as a lark. I still think of it kind of as a lark, it's a satirical thing, but yeah, in a sense, musically, I'm trying to express this is why I love the church, and here it is in song,
right.
Hopefully with some humor and some a feeling that's not going to make you depressed or whatever it is.
Right. All right. Well, with that, let's we're talking to Weird Alma, his album Straight Outta Cumorah. We're now going to listen to the 5th track called Ivory and Ivory. Now, I grew up in the 80s, so I knew exactly where you were going with this. But there's a lot of millennials and younger folk who have no idea what they're about to hear. So tell us what the original song is, and kind of what the idea of the song is.
Right, and it occurs to me that without that context, I'm not sure it quite works, because in the original song, Ebony and Ivory, right? You had Stevie Wonder and Paul McCartney singing together, and it's Ebony and Ivory live together in perfect harmony, side by side on my piano keyboard. Oh Lord, why can't we? A beautiful, sentiment about getting along with each other, putting racism aside. So it occurred to me afterwards,
why don't I play a brief clip of Ebony and Ivory?
Sure.
Just to give people a sense. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm gonna actually, YouTube has an ad that it wants to play first. So this is literally me stalling while I'm waiting for the ad to play out. And then what I'm going to do is play Stevie Wonder and Paul McCartney singing Ebony and Ivory, which is sort of this racial reconciliation song, using piano keys as a metaphor for how Black people and white people can sort of live in harmony together. Is that all right? All right, so here's Ebony and Ivory, and I'll just play it as into the song a bit. Ebony. So it's Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder singing about racial reconciliation with black and white keys on the keyboard, Ebony and Ivory living in perfect harmony. Anything else you want me to say before we play the song?
No.
Or anything you want to say?
No.
All right. So now here is your version called Ivory and Ivory. This is Weird Alma, straight out of Cumorah.
I'm not hearing. I'm not hearing it.
You're not hearing it?
No, it's okay. If
wait.
It's okay. If
Are listeners hearing it?
If everyone else is, that's fine. I've heard it.
Are listeners hearing it? Okay, listeners aren't hearing it. Let me stop it, and I'll start it again. I'm sorry. Sorry to listeners for that. So you were able to hear the previous one, right?
Yeah, the original.
Okay, so let me try it again. This is take 2 of Ivory, Ivory and Ivory by Weird Alma from Straight Out of Cumorah. I'm hoping it works this time. So here we go.
Ivory and Ivory live together in the Mormon hierarchy. Side by side, they're examples of glacial racial diversity. We've all seen that people are the same in the top 15. They're all old and white, wealthy businessmen, and they do not speak for the poor and meek around the world who represent every ethnicity. Ivory and Ivory live together in Mormon history. Side by side, Orson Hyde and Brigham Young made this racist legacy. It's too late when 40 years have passed in 78 to declare your church isn't racist if you did not replace apostles with a race that wasn't always white as the snow 19 times in a row. Ivory and Ivory live together in Mormon theology. Side by side, they're in Alma and Nephi. Oh my, can't you see? Ivory, Ivory, living in perfect bigotry. Ivory, 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 living in perfect bigotry.
Ivory, Ivory. I love it. All right. So that's obviously a commentary on race, and it is kind of mind-blowing that like 100 apostles in a row are white.
Well, that's the point. You know, the second verse there. The last 19 since 1978, 19 have been called, all of them white. You know, that's just
It just hasn't occurred to God to call a non-white yet.
Well, and I think the point I'm making there is, you know, I think, was it Elder Ballard? Somebody recently talked about, you know, in a very good way, denouncing racism in all shapes and forms, right? In a talk maybe a month ago. I don't have that reference, but, you know, here we have, you've had 40 years, you know, and 19 in a row. So I don't know. It's the idea of speaking one thing and doing another. But racism was a huge thing for me for many, many years. I never liked it, never accepted it. I remember posting about it on Facebook and stuff, certain things. And boy, the funny thing is that any criticism just gets you know, kind of the worst pushback from some people, you know, and I'm just like, there never was a revelation about it. We don't need, as a faithful Mormon, we don't need to hold on to this. We can denounce it and move on. But the essay did that a little bit, right? But never goes as far as really denouncing the origin of it.
But the essay actually upset a lot of people because they're like, hey, I believe this stuff. Apostles and prophets taught it. I taught it. You can't just change it now and call yourself prophets, seers, and revelators. If the prophets, seers, and revelators were wrong back then they're wrong now, and there needs to be some sort of reconciliation for all that.
Yeah, well, that's another reason it breaks down for me is that, you know, you can look at all the past prophets and how the terrible things they said. You know, Marky Peterson, oh my gosh, how did that? Okay, here's the thing. I can see imperfect people, very super flawed people being called to be an apostle of Jesus. When Jesus was walking around in Palestine and, hey, fisherman, come here. Hey, tax collector, come here. I don't care who you were. Fine. But now that they're speaking under the influence of Almighty God and they're really very racist, that's where I have a problem, you know.
Absolutely. So let's tune in with our listeners. Sean writes, so funny. Stephanie writes, when I heard the first line of this track, Ivory and Ivory, last night I nearly spit milk through my nose. Hilarious. Chelsea likes the line glacial racial. Haley says nailed it. Roger likes the line living in perfect bigotry. David says Ivory and Ivory is a jewel. It's a pearl of great price. Bruce writes ideological lip service at its finest. And Jared writes best church album ever. So you're striking a chord, Weird Alma. Nice work.
Well, I appreciate it.
All right, let's talk about You'll Be Back. What is that about? Now, this is one of my favorites because I'm a huge Hamilton fan.
Me too. Well, this, I guess, chronologically, this would be the very first Weird Alma thing because I wrote the first verse of it back when Elder Ballard gave that Where Will You Go talk. The thing is, I was traveling at the time and I couldn't really record it or anything. I thought, well, maybe I'll send it to the infants and they can put it on their conference episode, but I didn't have the means to record it. By the time I got home, it was a couple weeks later, the moment had passed a little bit, you know, and I forgot about it. But then recently I dragged it back out again. I had some trouble with this one, but you know, making some of the words work. I'm wondering if, well, I shouldn't say anything. I shouldn't say it. You liked it. There's some things maybe I would rewrite a little, but that's for me. I shouldn't say it.
Okay, so explain the Hamilton version of this song, or do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead. King George.
I wonder if there's actually a YouTube version of this song. There's got to be, right? From Hamilton. Yeah. So basically, in the musical Hamilton, it's primarily set in the United States, where, you know, Alexander Hamilton, along with other revolutionaries, are, you know, fighting the British and overthrowing them and starting a new country. And some of the funniest parts of the musical Hamilton are where King George actually will make an appearance and sing the same song 3 different times with the same melody. And the idea, he's almost singing to America like America is a lover. And so it's sort of like a love song, but it's also kind of vicious. And it's definitely many people's favorite parts. So I'm going to go ahead and play a little bit of the King George version first, if that's okay. And then we'll go ahead and play the Weird Alma parodies. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
All right, here we go. This is the actual Hamilton version of All right, so that gives us a sense for the original version of "You'll Be Back" as sung on the album or the musical, Broadway musical Hamilton. Now let's listen to the Weird Alma version, "You'll Be Back," as sung by Elder Ballard, and this is, I think, referencing kind of this "stay in the boat" idea within Mormonism. So here is "You'll Be Back" by Weird Alma. So good. Okay, some of the responses from our listeners include he stole the show, this is so funny, nailed it, keep on bringing cookies to your house. David wrote scathing, Chelsea wrote so true, Judy writes love this one. Judy also writes great voice, and I thought it was great, the British accent. And Bonnie wrote preach, and even Sandra Tanner weighed in. So that's pretty good endorsement.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I think that's one of people's favorites. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, thanks, man. Thanks. If you want, that speech, the Ballard speech, inspired another song. I give a little piece of Mormon Stories exclusive here.
Yeah.
And I don't know, this maybe could be maybe an Eric Herman song, kind of about imagination, but it directly came from that talk again. Where will you go, right? And I'm thinking,
oh wait, are you about to play a song for us?
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, I love it.
I got like 12 guitars here. I can fire something.
All right, let's hear it.
Let's see here. I got to remember the words. It's not finished, but it's something I'm working on.
Hey, we'll take it.
And it really came from that whole thing. When the room I'm in seems small to me, there's a world beyond where I can be. I'll explore the greatest of mysteries and fly across the galaxies. I can always go anywhere in my mind. Whoa, I'll go anywhere I want to go. Whoa, I'll go anywhere I want to go. That's
I love it. It's kind of just saying, hey, I'll go wherever I want to go, right?
Yeah. It's a little bit of a middle finger there, but not too overtly, I think.
I love it. I love the Mormon Stories exclusive. Lisa writes, it's like a prayer answered. She's saying your album is like a prayer answered.
Oh.
Judy's asking if this album is available for download. I just shared the link on the Facebook page. You can definitely download this. Why is it free? Why aren't you charging us for this treasure?
Because I don't want to. I don't know. It's just,
But this is quality art. I just have to say, this is high quality art.
Well, thank you. If I could use whatever the forum of your vast audience, I mean that seriously. I'm looking to do a couple videos for some of these things. I have limited video skills. I can put something together, but I would love it if somebody out there, who's more on the video maker side of things, would want to connect and help me do. I have ideas for
what type of video skills. Do you mean animation? What do you mean?
Well, graphics. I picture using certain quotes or imagery and stuff for certain things. Depending on the song. But like a fully animated version of Taperback Rider with that would be awesome.
All right.
That's maybe beyond what I'm looking for, but.
So we're with Weird Alma. We're crowdsourcing some digital video animation skills.
Animator, illustrator,
so that we can make some music videos of this beautiful stuff.
No.
All right. The next song we're gonna play hits me in my 80s. Hits me square in the 80s. For those of you, I'm not gonna play the Police singing "Don't Stand So Close to Me." Maybe I'll play it in the background. No, I won't play it. But basically, Sting and the Police back in the 80s had a song called Don't Stand So Close to Me, which was about a teacher that falls in love with his high school student, and they flirt with having an inappropriate relationship. Is that right?
Yeah. Now this song, this in particular, really works best if it's if you know the context. I'll give a shout out to Jonathan Streeter, Thinker of Thoughts,
who is listening. He's listening right now.
Hey, how you doing, Jonathan? Well, he pulled some video footage of a recent Bednar talk at a church meeting, And he noted how his wife started to stand up at the end.
Bednar's wife.
Yeah, Bednar's wife, not Jonathan's. Sorry. And she realized that Elder Bednar had not stood up yet, and she, almost in a panic, sits back down. And the way he highlights that is just it's not funny, actually. It's but I this is one I'm getting a little snarky on here. But Bednar, he's kind of rubs me a certain way, and so I'm using this forum as a little criticism of him, I guess.
And
over time.
And I want to invite anyone who can find the first person to post Thinker of Thoughts video wins ice cream or a lunch with me or something. Let's go ahead and post that link from Jonathan Streeter from Thinker of Thoughts here on the Facebook feed, so that those who are checking it out through video can actually see the video that was provided to us. Is that all right? All right. So we'll see who responds first. But the song is "Don't Stand Up Before Me," sung by Weird Alma, who is doing his best impersonation of David Bednar, the Apostle, sung to the tune of "Don't Stand So Close to Me" by the Police. It's called "Don't Stand Up Before Me." Are we ready to go?
Do it.
All right, here we go.
Young apostle, the subject, Dave Bednar is his name. Speaks at a church meeting, outranks all those who came. It's over, they're waiting to leave and shake some hands. His wife has the gall to get up before he stands. Don't stand up before me.
I love the falsetto.
Don't stand up before me. He can get so zealous, like Packer was. He'll bless a congregation, then take it back just 'cause. If he gets mad, he might make someone's head roll by, just like that young man in that book of First Nephi. Don't stand up before me. Don't stand up before me. He must have you honor his power and priesthood. He cares for rules and status, like Jesus would.
Ouch.
He claimed no gay Mormons. Of course there are. Someday he might be prophet. On race shout Heil Bednar.
Oh!
Don't stand up before me. Don't stand up before me. Don't stand up before me. Don't stand up before me.
I love it. All right. So that is, again, Weird Alma from the album Straight Outta Cumorah, singing "Don't Stand Up Before Me." Now, I just spent that full song trying to find the video on Jonathan Streeter's page, and I couldn't find it.
You know what? The link is right in the text of the lyrics towards the top. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
So
I'm not seeing it though.
Up towards the top, after the title, see here for some context.
Oh, there it is. Okay, got it. So we're gonna paste that in the Facebook group so that people can watch that. There it is. All right. Thank you for sharing that. Nobody wins the ice cream or lunch, or maybe no one wants an ice cream or lunch with me. So I'll just have to lick my wounds about that. All right. So we're
By
coming
the
down.
way, speaking of that, you owe me a steak dinner from like 4 years ago. You did one of your like epic 5-hour podcasts. At the end, you're like, if anybody listens to this whole thing, I'll buy you a steak dinner. I was like,
Where do you live? Where do you live, Eric?
Washington State. So.
Oh, when are you going to come to Salt Lake so I can take you up on that offer?
Yeah. Well, I get there usually once or twice a year. So next summer sometime probably.
Do you perform?
Yeah.
All right, man. Listen, a couple things. Let's have you come and maybe perform to the post-mo or progressive mo audience. Maybe,
sure, yeah.
I think Sunstone is dumb if they don't have you perform at Sunstone.
Yeah, I'd love to. The one problem with depending when it is, like summer is my busiest time traveling and doing stuff. So it really depends on the dates. But
well, when you come out here, please let me know ahead of time, and we'll have an event for you to perform some of this to an audience. How would that sound?
Great. And I'll probably have some new ones by then too.
Yeah. So do you plan on putting out more of these?
Well, there's no plan. This is really just among the side projects I get into. This is yet another one, but I do have a few more ideas. I'm not going to spoil anything just yet, but I'm working on a First Visions song that I think will be a clever way to represent the many different ones. And I'm not sure if I can work it out the way I imagined it, but we'll see. A song about the 116 pages, a pet interest of mine, actually. And a couple other things. So.
All right. So there's some things coming up.
Yes.
Are you influenced by Brother Jake at all? Some people are kind of drawing some parallels or similarities. Talk about what Brother Jake's work has meant to you.
Yeah. Well, I first came across it a couple of years ago. I was still an active member, but it was one of those things that was hugely jarring, and on the one hand I loved it, from the sense of the satire of it and the approach of it and the style of it. It's brilliant. But on the other hand, it was like, oh man, what do I do with this? Because I knew everything in there is speaking the truth, and the thing is, the infants told me, I talked to them recently, and that he had a similar question about, do I put this stuff out? How are people going to react? And yet, if they react badly to me, but not the material, what does that mean? That's what kept him doing it, because the material being true and authentic, to at least to his point of view, is what kept him doing that. And I really grew to respect that. I'm able to just love his work outwardly and completely now. His was my girls. I have 2 daughters. They're 15 and 12 now. And when I lost my belief, it took me a little while to figure out what do I say to them, and one of the things is I actually turned my older daughter on to Brother Jake, because I knew she's really into funny YouTube stuff, and I knew she would get a kick out of that. So she played some things and loved it, as I thought, and we talked a little bit about what some of that meant, which eventually led to when I just told them I just don't believe anymore. So
nice. So any other influences you want to make shout outs to that have been important to you just for fun? I guess Jonathan Streeter's work you've appreciated.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, in fact, one of the things about that Jonathan did maybe a year ago, I was thinking of this back with the Ivory and Ivory song, is he did this amazing video where it was right after the November 15 policy that you helped shine a light on, right?
Yep, a little bit.
A little bit. And he had this video. Here are the, and I'm remembering it best I can here, but here are all of the reasons, all of the defenses for the November 15th handbook policy, right? So at first you start listening to this, and the things he is saying are actually seem to be defending that, and you're like, what the heck? I mean, it doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't seem good, but like, and then finally, I hate to spoil it here though. People should go watch that, because there is a twist involved in that. Can I say it? Is Jonathan there? I don't know.
Jonathan is listening, and we're going to ask Jonathan to post a link to the video you're talking about in the comments.
Yeah. Let's just say at the end, you realize that everything that he was saying supposedly about that policy had to do with an earlier aspect of church history and actual things that leaders and people said about it. To me, the juxtaposition of that was brilliant, to see that, a lot of things just don't change. We change we change what we're complaining about, or what we change what the devil is, but we don't change the same words that we use to try to chase them out, I guess.
Right.
Whether it's racism or LGBT rights, and
Is there a song? Do you have a song specifically about the November policy yet?
I don't. And I was going to work on a couple things. I had something I was working on about Elder Oaks' talk in a recent conference. And it was one of those things that just didn't go away. You write songs or parody song, whatever it is. A lot of times you have 100 ideas, and maybe 20 of them actually go somewhere.
If somebody wants to, is it even useful if people want to share ideas with you, or is that not useful?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
How do people get a hold of you if they want to share ideas for songs with you?
I would say, if you go to weirdalma.com, where the songs are, there's a contact button on there, I believe. But
Okay.
what I was also going to say is the Infants, their conference show, they had a string of parodies related to that subject. So that's another reason I said, okay, it's kind of been covered. Now I do want to do my own take on it at some point, but the idea I had didn't turn out. It had like a verse, and it wasn't.
Yeah, Infants on Thrones and Brother Jake are brilliant. Mm-hmm. Just simply brilliant. I just have to kind of go on record and say that.
You've never said that before?
I probably have, but I'm going on record again if I haven't.
Right.
All
plus
right.
Plus one.
So I think it'd be fun to kind of go out with your last song and just have it be the way we end the episode. Anything you want to say in your interview before we set up the final song?
Just a shout out that, to all the people that have, helped me both in and out of the church, many wonderful, loving people. I love you. I have issues with the church specifically, and the doctrines and the teachings. I think it's all false. And, it is what it is. but I hope that, if anybody finds out about this and is offended, well, so be it. But there's also 100 worse things out there, all kinds of memes and everything, not to excuse anything or whatever, but I feel like I'm justifying it, but it is a concern of mine. I don't know how you or other people feel sometimes, like you kind of walking on some eggshells. I guess that's how it's been. I'm still adjusting to this, a year later, what it means. In one sense, I am trying to move past it. And I think in many ways I am. Most days I don't think about the church much, but I'm still connected in different ways. Connected through the people. At this point, the ex-Mormon community, I've made some friends there. And I think connection is important no matter what. That's one of the things that the church does a great job of providing, I don't know. I just, at a certain point, I had to say that I do not believe this anymore. I tried to keep going for a couple months. And just that felt really, really weird at that point, and it didn't feel right. So just to be honest myself, I'm a songwriter. I'm going to write about stuff that I'm thinking about that's part of my life. And hopefully, again, I'll do the plug. If somebody out there is good at making videos or illustration and stuff, want to connect with me, that would be really awesome. And I appreciate all the work you've done, John. Can I quote something from you? I rarely do this, but sometimes when I'm listening to podcasts and stuff, I'll hear something and I'll frantically like write it down in my file on my phone. And you said something a few weeks ago in your New Name Noah interview that I thought was really, really profound, and I wrote it. And I do want to say here because I think it's awesome. There is something fundamentally immoral to presenting a narrative that people build their entire lives upon. They decide what to do with their education, how much money to give, who to marry, when to marry, how many kids to have, what professions to pursue. There's this massive amount of decisions that you make, in a finite life. And to base that life on a narrative when not only the narrative isn't what it claims to be, but when leaders know that the narrative isn't what it claims to be, and intentionally, for as long as they could, withheld the information that would allow people to make an informed decision about how they spend their finite time and resources, that's profoundly immoral. Now, I would have sworn, did you write that all out ahead of time? And
man, whoever said that was super wise. Whoever said that. No, that was just the Spirit. That was the Spirit moving me during my my interview with Mike Norton. Yeah. So that was all off the cuff.
But man, and that's exactly how I feel, and a big reason why I left. It's this is your whole life. I have no desire in pulling people out of the church. That doesn't work anyways, right? There's the backfire effect and all that. But I would like people to be more aware of these issues. Like you're dedicating your whole life to this. Absolutely everything. Your money, your time, all of this. Do you really know all of these things? You should. And if at that point, somebody said to me after I left, my sister-in-law, she looked at the CAS letter and the rebuttal by Fair and the rebuttal to the rebuttal, and she came back and she said, you know what? It's really, really messy, but I choose to believe. At that point, I had to say, okay, yeah, fine, great. But man, it means so much. It's your whole life. And, that I think that's all. If I can possibly do any little sliver of the thing with these silly songs, just here's some of the issues, and I think more of it is really for the ex-Mos, don't you think? That, we're kind of,
we certainly love it.
Yeah. We're having a little laugh at some of these issues and things, and expressing, why they are issues, I think,
Well, I jumped on this because I think it's brilliant. It's brilliant writing, brilliant thinking, brilliant music. It's artistic, but it's hilarious and it's powerful. So,
oh man, thank you.
So Eric, thank you so much for this gift. I hope you don't stop with this. And I'm really just proud to call you a fellow Mormon, post-Mormon. I'm proud that you're one of us in the tribe. Patty just wrote, thank you for reading that quote from the recent podcast. It touched me too, and I thought it was spot on. I'm sure that a lot of our listeners are going to be thanking you as we conclude this podcast. So if any listeners want to give some final thoughts or thank yous to Eric, please add them now as comments, and I'll read them after we play this last song. Lisa just wrote healing. So anyway, Eric, you're a gift to Mormonism. Weird Alma, thank you. The album is straight out of Cumorah. The artist is Weird Alma. And the final song that we're going to play today is a parody of I'm Trying to Be Like Jesus. And so that's what we'll be going out on. I'm trying to be like Jesus. The final
very much like. and including some of the more controversial aspects.
So this is what Jesus was literally like, right?
Yeah, well, in some ways.
All right, here we go. I'm Trying to Be Like Jesus by Weird Alma. Thanks so much, and here we go. Hope you enjoy it.
I'm trying to be like Jesus. I'll follow in every way. I'll wear a long robe and sandals and start growing a beard today. I'll tell people to hate their families, and I'll tell my church leaders they're all Pharisees, saying love one another as Jesus implores. Have dinners with sinners and hang out with whores. You can burn people, drown people, and call it divine, like he did in 3 Nephi 9. I'm trying to love my neighbors. I know that I can do more. I'll save what I need for tithing, then give it all to the poor. I'll tell everybody I'm God's only son, and I'll go to the temple and whip everyone, saying love one another, kill trees without figs, throw people off cliffs like he did with those pigs. Tell those wealthy apostles to sell all they've got, for these are the things Jesus taught.
All right, so final comments coming in. Marion writes, thanks, Eric. Vicky writes, do you think you ever heal? Joyce writes, fantastic artistry. Lolly writes, thank you for bringing humor to something that is often painful. It helps validate my feelings. You're awesome. Chelsea writes, like he did with those pigs, and lots of smiley faces with tears. Chad writes, priceless, and so on and so on. All right, Eric, Weird Alma, thank you so much for sharing your gifts with us. Please join us again on Mormon Stories soon. Jonathan writes, don't stop with one album.
Well, I had an idea. Maybe I should have called it Straight Outta Darkness. I don't know. But now that could be the sequel. That could be the next album.
No, we need like a Beatles White album. If it's not the White album, what is it? The White and Whiter album. The really white album.
The white shirt. I don't know. It's like
how about the really white album?
The really white album. Oh man, good.
All right, Eric Weird Alma. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks to all the listeners. It's been awesome to have you guys.
Plug or two?
Yeah, plug away.
Oh, okay. Kids music, just look up Eric Herman on Google or YouTube, and there's videos and stuff.
Eric Herman, EricHerman, right?
That's it. Yep.
All right.
Also, ericendres.com. That's my actual last name, ENDRES. I put out an album absolutely free. That one earlier this year. Not kids music. It's an album I did about all the addiction recovery stuff that I went through 20 years ago. So.
Oh wow,
but I don't want to plug that. It's different, but more kind of alt rock kind of sound to that. But and then weirdalma.com. Yeah.
All right. Hey, post some of those links in the comments of the Facebook live feed, and I'll make sure that my producer Cody includes them in the blog post when we release this on Mormon Stories.
Okay. Great.
Is that all right?
Yeah, thanks, man. It's
all
great
right.
talking to you.
Weirdalma.com. Eric, thank you so much. Thanks to all the listeners. Please support us at Mormon Stories if you value this content. Your monthly contribution, 10, 20, $100 a month, whatever you can afford, is what keeps us going. Thanks to everyone who supports the Open Stories Foundation. Join us again soon for another edition of Mormon Stories. Take care, everybody.